Hey everyone, Michael and Suzy here with Adventurous Real Estate Investors.
Woo!
So in these next couple of YouTube videos that we're going to release, we're actually going to break up an asset management presentation that we crushed at a Real Estate Investing Rocks Summit. So in the first video,
We are going to be discussing when does asset management begin, finding your property manager, and then closing and takeover. And the reason we want to talk about these right now is that that's the beginning chunk of when asset management truly begins, but even a little bit more. So the Real Estate Investing Rock Summit is held by Angel Williams. It is a really great summit, and I'm pretty sure she holds it maybe 3 times a year and has at least twice. It has all different speakers every time. So check that out because there's a lot of great content, there's a lot of great speakers, and you just learn so much. And she's just a great human in general.
okay, let's get into the video right here.
Yes. So as Michael mentioned, we are going to do just an introduction to asset management. So everything that we've experienced so far and what we have held on to that has brought us success and what we will continue to do moving forward, just because we do find that these steps are very critical into our journey. When does asset management begin? You know, like when you first are getting into all of the education, some people might think like, oh no, it happens after closing, but it begins before you submit that letter of intent or the LOI. And the reason is because before you submit the LOI, you need to develop a business plan that is tailored for that specific property. So it will change property to property. And what this business plan is that it lays out exactly how you plan to operate the property. So it details everything that you want to do with the interior and exterior renovations, what amenities you want to add, what rent premiums you plan to achieve, what operational efficiencies you will target, and just a lot more. And the business plan is the strategic vision for your property. And I say strategic vision because everyone on your team needs to know what the business plan is, so that if you ever have to step out, somebody else can step in and be able to take over that business plan for you, you know, and you want to be able to have conversations with the other people on your general partnership team and they understand what's going on.
Absolutely. So one of the first things you want to do, you know, obviously Suzy talked about, you know, asset management begins before submitting an LOI. What also begins before submitting an LOI is finding your property management company. This is critical for us, and this is mine and Suzy's philosophy, and a lot of other operators also share the same philosophy. However, oftentimes you see operators going out, or especially newer operators, they go out, they get a property under contract, you know, have an LOI accepted, and then they're scrambling to figure out, okay, who's going to manage our property, right? That is completely backwards, in my opinion. The reason why I say that is because like you need to bring your property management company on before you even submit that LOI. They've got to make sure that those rent premiums that you're going to do make sense for that specific submarket. They've got to make sure that the business plan that you're going to do actually works for that submarket and everything like that. They're going to review it, basically do a sanity check, and then provide you with feedback. So you need to have your property management company as an integral member of your team before you even submit the LOI. How do you find the right property management company? First of all, networking, right? Networking and chatting with as many people and telling them where you're investing, what markets you're interested in, and asking operators, current syndicators, you know, who are they using for who are they using for a property management company, and what experiences has they had with them? You know, have they taken a deal full cycle with this property management company, and those things like that. Once you get those referrals, then you set up some interviews with them, chat. You know, you need to make sure that the interview that you have is a two-way conversation, not a one-way conversation, because you don't want your property management company to be a yes man or a yes woman. You want to be able to say, hey, I want to achieve these rent premiums, and you want them to come back and say, well, in this submarket, that's going to be a little tough to achieve unless we did X or we did Y, right? Make sure that, like I said, it is a two-way conversation. And the last thing you want to do when you're interviewing them is make sure that they align with your values.
Yes.
For Suzy and I, this is huge because like we don't want the property management company that's just chasing the returns and doesn't care about the residents at all, right? We want to make sure that they're putting the residents first, just like Suzy and I do in our asset management. We put the residents first and then profit second, right? Because we are running apartment communities. These are homes for these residents, and you want to make sure that you take care of them first, and then the profits will follow. So, like I said, just to wrap it up here, you need to have a property management company on your team before you even consider submitting LOIs in specific markets, because they are such a key and integral part of your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we do truly love our property management company, so we are very happy that we found them. But then once you find your property management company, you have that conversation about the business plan and you're getting closer to closing. It's like, okay, well, what comes next? And so we're going to go over 3 different things that we experienced. And so when we're going into closing, the next thing you need to do, because you have like an outline of what you think your business plan is going to be, like what your vision is, but then you need to draft your very detailed 90-day business plan. So like from day 1 of takeover for the next 3 months, what does that look like? What do the premiums, rent premiums look like? What are the renewals? What's happening with them? What are you doing with those unit or apartment turns? What does capital improvements look like? What other income are you trying to target? What quarterly financial targets do you have? That all goes into that. And that's another conversation that you need to be having with the entire general partnership team, with the director or the owner of the property management company, with the regional property management company, and the on-site property manager, just so that when it goes to takeover, you're not having, like that first week call and it's like, okay, well, what are we supposed to do now that we've gotten used to it? You want to have the conversation before, so then they can ask those questions then, and there's no miscommunication or confusion. Like, yes, there is always time to ask questions, but you can address them then and not after takeover when the business plan is already supposed to be in action. So then the second thing that we saw after we took over, and it's the 3 things that really stood out that happened from the residents on our property. So the first one was that some residents may stop paying rent to test how much they can get away with. If they notice that there is a property management change, they are probably going to assume that there's either new owners or that something happened previously and that there's a lot going on. And so they're like, okay, what can I get away with? Will they miss this? Can I easily say oh, I paid previously with the other property management company? It also depends on the class and the area that you're in, but that's something that can definitely just occur with everyone. The second thing that we saw and that happened to us was that there will be some residents who are paying $200 to $300 below market rent. I mean, we know a lot of them are already paying below market rent, and that is a big part of the value add strategy. But those individuals are going to push back the hardest on rent increases for renewals. And that could be for a couple of reasons, right? Previous property managers could have just said okay, that's fine. You can continue to pay what you were paying, or they could have just not asked for an increase at all. The previous owner was focusing on other things rather than bumping rents. But so during that time, just giving your property management company grace, because that is going to be really difficult conversations for them to have, even though it's something that has to potentially happen. Then the third thing that we saw was a high amount of work orders were submitted. And that could be because the owner neglected them, or because they want to make the property look really lean before they go to sell it. So if they're not spending a lot of money on maintenance, it'll seem like the expenses are down. And just for example, on our recent property, we had roughly 88 work orders submitted within the first month. And that'll be really daunting for the maintenance crew, especially if it's only one person, right? But just know that height will dip back down and everything will be totally okay. It'll steady out, but it does take a little bit for the property management team to get in and get comfortable and even get settled. And so that's just something to, I guess, look forward to. And then the third thing to look out for when you are getting to that closing and at closing is the month-to-month leases, because that will be your opportunity to either do those rent increases to hit those pro forma rents, or potentially yes, potentially have the residents who are not bringing value to the property leave. And so you want to just make sure that for renewals, like the current residents can renew in place. That's really important. And then the timing is also very, very important. So if you have a majority or even half, right, because that's still a big chunk of the residents on month to month, when you're offering them renewals for an extended amount of time, stagger the months. So you could do a 6-month, you could do a 9-month, you could do a 12-month. I mean, even previously, I've seen 13 months, 7 months, I've seen all of the months, right? And what you can do is that whenever the best time for your leasing season is, you can make it so that you can even shift the leases to end at that time so that you have people moving in and moving out when it works best for you and your company. But definitely make sure to stagger so that you're not in the situation again where leases are coming due all at the same time, because you don't want that huge drop in occupancy if they all decide to leave. But then the third thing to look out for with those leases is the loss to lease. And what you're going to do is that you're going to examine what the current lease rent is and how far off of market rent that is. So the larger the delta, the higher priority to get those leases turned at the pro forma rents. And a lot of those leases will be the ones that we talked about earlier, where they are the ones below market rent. So their, homes have probably not been renovated in a very long time, but you will want to get in those. I mean, besides the fact that really with those units, things need to be kept anyways, because we don't want it affecting any of the units around it. But like, we want to create a community that is like very inviting. And so, yes, that does mean going in and turning units when the units are no longer like in a, I guess, desirable spot.
So we hope that you enjoy part 1 of this series, but stay tuned, because if you watch all 3 parts, at the very last one, comment in the comment section, #AREI bonus, and we'll send you the webinar slide so that you can check out all of the goodness in a packed full section.
If you like this video, hit that like button below. And also, if you enjoy the content we put out, please subscribe and ring that bell so you'll be notified every time that we release these awesome videos. So thank you so much for your time and attention. Until next time, explore more. Adventure awaits.